She was threatened in a place where fear usually wins, where silence feels safer than resistance, and where one wrong move can change a life forever. The message came fast and cruel, wrapped in menace and certainty, promising consequences she could not escape. Across the street, an engine rumbled low and steady, a biker watching more than anyone realized. No one knew yet that this single moment, heavy with danger, was about to flip the balance of power in a way none of them expected. If you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Only Kindness. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Maribel Cruz had learned how to survive quietly. She worked late shifts at a small roadside diner just outside the city limits, a place where truckers passed through and locals pretended not to notice trouble. Her life had never been easy, but it had been predictable, and predictability felt like safety. Lately, though, that sense of safety had cracked. Someone had begun watching her too closely, leaving notes, making sure she understood that she was seen and that her choices were no longer entirely her own. She told herself it was nothing at first, the way people do when fear creeps in slowly. But fear has weight, and it settles into the body, changing how a person walks, how they breathe, how they look over their shoulder. The night everything shifted, the air felt wrong from the start. The sky hung low and dark, pressing down on the diner's flickering lights. Maribel moved through her tasks with shaking hands, her mind racing through worst-case scenarios she tried to push away. When she stepped outside during a quiet moment, the threat became unmistakable. The warning was clear enough to make her chest tighten, a reminder that she was alone and vulnerable. She stood there frozen, the sounds of the highway blurring together, wondering how her life had narrowed to this moment of fear. What Maribel did not realize was that someone else had noticed the change in her. Rowan Hale, a biker passing through on his way back from a long ride, had stopped at the diner earlier. He was not the kind of man people expected help from. With his weathered jacket, heavy boots, and road-worn motorcycle, he blended easily into assumptions. But Rowan had learned long ago how to read rooms, how to sense when something was wrong. He had seen the way Maribel flinched at every sound, the way her eyes scanned the darkness instead of resting on the familiar. Rowan had his own history with fear and threats. Years before, he had stood by and done nothing when someone else needed help, convincing himself it was not his place. That choice had stayed with him, a quiet regret that followed him mile after mile. So when he noticed Maribel standing outside, pale and rigid, something inside him refused to let the moment pass. He did not rush in or make a scene. He simply stayed, watching, listening, making sure she was not as alone as she felt. The tension escalated quickly. The presence that had been looming in Maribel's life pressed closer, more confident, more aggressive. Fear threatened to overwhelm her, to reduce her to silence. But before it could, the balance shifted. Rowan made himself visible, not with violence or bravado, but with calm certainty. His presence alone disrupted the dynamic, changing the unspoken rules of the encounter. Where there had been intimidation, there was now resistance. Where there had been control, there was now uncertainty. What followed was not a dramatic confrontation but something more powerful. Rowan used attention as a weapon against fear. He stayed nearby, made phone calls, involved others without escalating the situation. The threat lost its anonymity, its power draining away under the weight of witnesses and awareness. Maribel felt the shift before she fully understood it, the way the air seemed lighter, the way her shoulders lowered for the first time in weeks. The tables had turned, not through force, but through the refusal to let fear operate in the shadows. In the days that followed, the impact of that night continued to unfold. Maribel reported what had happened, supported by people she had not known would stand beside her. The diner owner adjusted schedules and security, no longer willing to ignore what his staff faced. Word spread quietly that this was no longer an easy target, that threats would be met with attention and action. For Maribel, the change was internal as much as external. She began to reclaim pieces of herself that fear had stolen, rediscovering her voice and her confidence. Rowan did not stay long. He never asked for thanks or recognition. Before he left, he made sure Maribel knew she was not weak for being afraid, and that courage often looks like simply refusing to look away. Then he rode off, another figure disappearing down the highway. But the mark he left behind was real and lasting. One act of awareness, one choice to intervene, had altered the course of someone else's life. Stories like this matter because they remind us that kindness does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it arrives on two wheels in the middle of the night. Sometimes it looks like standing still when it would be easier to walk away. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Only Kindness, so more people can be reminded of the power of small, brave actions. Before the ending, we ask you from the heart to comment below and share what this story made you feel or what kindness means to you.